Yesterday's prophecies, today's headlines. This is the HAL Lindsey Report. And now, HAL Lindsey.
Good evening and welcome to the special edition of HAL Lindsey Report, the 2017 Prophetic Year in Review, Part 2. The world calls it fake news. Jesus called it deception. When his disciples asked about signs of the last days, he began by giving this warning about those days. Take heed that no one deceives you. We live in the age of deception. Fake news, false advertising, viral lies, and clickbait. The mainstream media perpetrates falsehood regularly, as do various alternative media. One of the prime sources of 21st century deception can be found in our schools. For instance, the U.S. Department of Education urges all schools to teach Islam, and they admit that such teaching is for the purpose of propaganda. Naturally, they don't use the word propaganda, but what they say means the same thing. The Department of Education says schools should teach Islam in order to create an anti-bias learning environment. Public schools regularly teach the religious doctrine that God and Allah are the same. They constantly repeat the mantra that Islam is a religion of peace. This had nothing to do with teaching the truth. This is public relations work for the religion of Islam. The news media follows the same pattern. Truth has become subservient to political correctness. Isaiah 5:20 says, "Woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness for light and light for darkness, who put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter." Those words perfectly describe the kind of deception going on right now. The world suffers from moral confusion. The media and education establishments seem determined to destroy the sense of right and wrong written into our very DNA. Every day, thousands of times a day, they call evil good and good evil. Another sign of the end times is an increase in persecution of Christians. Columnist Raymond Ibrahim wrote an article entitled, "It's War on Christians." He said, on April 9th, 2 Coptic Christian Orthodox churches packed with worshipers for Palm Sunday Mass, which initiates Easter's Holy Week, were attacked by Islamic suicide bombers. 27 people, mostly children, were killed in St. George's in Tanta, northern Egypt. We hear little about these attacks because they usually kill only a few Christians at a time. But there were hundreds of such attacks last year. Christianity Today reported for the 3rd year in a row, the modern persecution of Christians worldwide has hit another record high. Fox News said, nearly 1 in 12 Christians across the globe lives in an area where there is high-level persecution against members of the religion. In Yemen, civil war among Muslims leaves Christians in the crosshairs. A Yemeni Christian named Sam told CBN News, "Life for Christians in Yemen is very hard. For that matter, across the Middle East, there is not a country where Christians are not suffering for their faith." This is our reality. Why is so much Christian persecution centered in Islamic countries? Sam explained it this way. All Christians in Yemen are from a Muslim background. According to Islamic Sharia law, it is forbidden for Muslims to convert to Christianity. It reminds me of something we heard back in 2014. That year, an Orthodox priest, Father Gabriel Nadaf, told the UN Human Rights Council to stop their witch hunt against Israel. He explained, in the Middle East today, there is one country where Christianity is not only not persecuted, but affectionately granted freedom of expression, freedom of worship, and security. Israel is the only place where Christians in the Middle East are safe. We also saw Christian persecution in unexpected places. In 2017, Canada enacted Bill 89. It empowers the government to take a child away from parents who do not agree that their child is transgender. Michael Coteau, Ontario's Minister of Children and Youth Services, explained the thinking behind the bill. He said it should be considered abuse when a child identifies one way and a caregiver is saying no. Jack Fonseca with the Campaign Life Coalition said, with the passage of Bill 89, we've entered an era of totalitarian power by the state such as never witnessed before in Canada's history. Make no mistake, Bill 89 is a grave threat to Christians and all people of faith. Also, in 2017, the U.S. Supreme Court heard the case of Jack Phillips, the Colorado baker who declined to make a wedding cake for a homosexual couple. His story is a reminder that following Christ in the United States and other Western nations is becoming dangerous. Unlike our Middle Eastern brothers and sisters, our lives have not been put at risk, at least not yet. But the case of Mr. Phillips shows that living for Christ already harms a person's ability to hold a job or run a business in a Western nation. And that's a big deal.
Hal Lindsey's look back at exciting and contentious 2017 in the light of Bible prophecy is now available on DVD. The Prophetic Year in Review 2017 DVD can be yours for only $14.95 plus shipping and handling. To order your DVD of Hal Lindsey's Prophetic Year in Review 2017, call toll-free 1-888-RAPTURE. You can also visit hallindsey.com or write to Hal Lindsey Media Ministries, P.O. Box 470470, Tulsa, Oklahoma 74147. Order your DVD of Hal Lindsey's Prophetic Year in Review 2017 today.
Over the last few decades, Bible scholars have speculated that the mark of the beast might be a computer chip inserted under a person's skin. The chip would serve as an identifier full of data about the individual. It would hold the user's medical history, credit ratings, and banking balance. It could give real-time medical data such as blood sugar levels, heart rate, and oxygen content of the blood. It might even alert the user and his doctor to signs of cancer or heart disease. It would guarantee security and convenience. It would also make possible an amazing Bible prophecy regarding the Antichrist partner, known as the false prophet. He causes all, the small and the great, and the rich and the poor, and the free men and the slaves, to be given a mark on their right hand or on their forehead, and he provides that no one should be able to buy or sell except the one who has the mark. In July of 2017, a company in Wisconsin finally did it. They implanted tiny computer chips into the hands of about 50 employee volunteers. The chips only allow them to open doors and buy candy from machines without using coins, but they pretend huge things, some good but mostly bad. Even without implanted chips, businesses and governments gather enormous amounts of data on every one of us every day. Walk into a grocery store and facial recognition software kicks in. Right now, they're mostly interested in the brands you buy and what things they can do to stimulate you to buy more. But that's just the beginning. Even our children are under surveillance. More and more toys have cameras and microphones that connect to the internet and constantly gather data. The New York Times calls such toys the cybersecurity nightmares of 2017. Today, toys spy on us. Phones spy, television, cars, and even refrigerators spy. In 2017, TSA began using facial scans in some airports. It seems to be a dry run for a national surveillance system. In October, the liberal Slate magazine reported on legislation being considered by Congress. The TSA Modernization Act sounds like a harmless bill to get the airport security agency new computers. But an alarming section in the bill would give a green light to begin using biometrics to identify people in airports nationwide. And right now, there's only one technology fit for a biometric surveillance system: automated real-time face scans. Some of our smartest leaders are warning us about the dangers of artificial intelligence and even things like killer robots. On another front, digital currencies came into their own this year as well. Bitcoin's value rose to unbelievable levels, but from a prophetic point of view, I'm more interested in government-issued digital currency. For instance, in Israel, the digital shekel now seems inevitable. The Jerusalem Post reports the Bank of Israel has been examining the possibility of a state-sponsored currency for several months. The Finance Ministry and Bank of Israel are considering issuing a digital currency, a possible response to the frenzied cryptocurrency and Bitcoin craze. The digital shekel would record every transaction by mobile phone and make it more difficult to evade taxation. Almost all governments are exploring the idea. These cryptocurrencies foreshadow a future world currency controlled by the Antichrist. Something else that foreshadows the mark of the beast economic system is happening in China. They are building the largest DNA database in the world. For the mark of the beast system to work, it will need to be made secure using DNA and other biometric identifiers. These may include fingerprints, hand geometry, voice patterns, earlobe geometry, as well as retina and iris patterns. China is doing something else that may aid the government of Antichrist. In the Internet's early days, computer scientists insisted that its adoption signaled the end of totalitarian governments. But China has found a way to control the Internet within their borders. In 2017, they gained the ability to erase data and images mid-transmission. In the future, those techniques could go global, and that would be a tremendous aid in the rise of Antichrist by allowing his government to absolutely control all communications between people. 2 Timothy 3 says, "In the last days, men will be brutal and haters of good." As I noted last week, radical Islamic terrorists continued to brutalize the world in 2017. But the year also featured other unspeakable brutal acts by the haters of good. In October, Stephen Paddock shot up a Las Vegas music festival. He killed 58 and wounded 546. Still, no one really knows why. I suspect he was simply serving his master, Satan, whether he realized it or not. In November, Devin Patrick Kelly attacked the Sunday morning worship service of the First Baptist Church in Sutherland Springs, Texas. He killed 26 and injured 20. 2017 was a year in which many considered entertainment to see fantasies of President Trump's assassination, even his beheading. It was a year in which human beings became increasingly and overtly brutal. Jesus predicted earthquakes in the last days. In 2017, Mexico was hit with two large ones. One of them was massive, a magnitude 8.2 centered near Chiapas. The largest volcano in the world, the Yellowstone supervolcano, seemed to show signs of awakening from a long dormancy in 2017. But it wasn't just a year of earthquakes and volcanoes. It was a year when nature itself seemed to go berserk. Jeff Masters, the meteorology director of Weather Underground, said, "Nature's gone crazy." Hurricane Harvey hit the Gulf Coast like nothing ever before. The Washington Post said, as Harvey's rains unfolded, the intensity and the scope of the disaster were so enormous that weather forecasters, first responders, the victims, everyone really couldn't believe their eyes. They called it a 1,000-year flood event, unprecedented in scale. Cedar Bayou, Texas, received the highest rainfall total ever recorded in the continental United States, almost 52 inches. In Beaumont, Texas, the Neches River crested 17 feet above flood stage. That's 8 feet higher than the previous record. Usually, a record is beaten by an inch or so, but this flood almost doubled the previous all-time high. Then came Hurricane Irma with wind speeds reaching 185 miles an hour and killing 134 people. It hit Puerto Rico, Cuba, and Florida. But that wasn't the end for Puerto Rico. On the heels of Irma came Maria, one of the most powerful hurricanes ever witnessed. The people of Puerto Rico are still struggling to recover. 2017 also saw California suffer through one of the most destructive fire seasons in history. In Matthew 24, Jesus compared end times events to a woman going through labor pains. In Romans 8:22, the Apostle Paul wrote, "The whole creation groans and suffers the pains of childbirth together until now." That means the whole planet is in travail. In 2017, we saw it. Jesus also spoke of famine as a sign of his coming. In March, United Nations humanitarian chief Stephen O'Brien announced more than 20 million people across 4 countries face starvation and famine. The 4 countries are South Sudan, Somalia, Yemen, and Nigeria. O'Brien called it the largest humanitarian crisis since the creation of the UN. The World Food Program called the present food crisis unprecedented. Labor pains during childbirth come and go and then return stronger than before. They also grow more and more frequent until the inevitable birth becomes obvious. And that's precisely where we are as we enter 2018. The message that God has given me is more important now than it's ever been, for the church and for the nation. That's why I'm asking you to help me to expand our reach.
To support this program, send your tax-deductible gift to HAL Lindsey Media Ministries, P.O. Box 470470, Tulsa, Oklahoma 74147. You can also support this ministry online. Visit HalLindsey.com or call 1-888-RAPTURE.
And thanks for being a vital part of my team. 2018 began with a spate of earthquakes along the San Andreas Fault. Scientists say it could be a sign that the famous fault is waking up. But the most foreseeable earthquake is in politics. In 2016's prophetic year in review, I said, compared to what Donald Trump is facing, Richard Nixon had it easy. I sure got that one right. Why are people so upset with President Trump? Even his most die-hard supporters admit that he sometimes rubs them the wrong way. He says unexpected and sometimes inappropriate things. He speaks or tweets when maybe he should be silent, and vice versa. But when we look beyond his bluster and just look at his actions, he's mostly a moderate, right-of-the-center politician, not at all out of the mainstream. I think the real reason so many people are obsessed with destroying him can be found in his resistance to the New World Order. He refused to recertify the Iran nuclear deal, though he's keeping his options open. In December, he formally recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. He also announced that the United States would begin the process of moving its embassy there. He pulled the United States out of the Paris Climate Accord. He's renegotiating NAFTA, and he put an end to the Trans-Pacific Partnership. In March, I said globalist elites thought they had found a backdoor to world government using multinational trade deals. The organizations necessary to administer such huge agreements would become super government to which each trade partner must cede sovereignty. But the United States elected a new president who wants to focus on trade agreements with individual nations, not groups of nations. That way, there's no need for a new set of international laws and a new super bureaucracy to carry out those laws, or new multinational courts to punish dissenters. More than anything else, this is why the global elites are throwing everything they've got at the new administration in Washington. In 2018, I expect it to only get worse. The Mueller investigation will probably publish its findings. It seems to have gone well beyond its mandate of investigating possible collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia. He may go after the president himself. His family are close friends. What happens when a president is weakened? The Monica Lewinsky scandal in 1998 so weakened the president, Bill Clinton, that he missed an opportunity to stop Osama bin Laden. He easily could have done it, but he was already being accused of using bin Laden to distract the public from his personal problems. Clinton's weakness in 1998 led directly to the terror attacks on 9/11. A weakened president endangers a nation. That's especially true in times like these. During the Obama administration, I was criticized for saying we should pray for the president. But 1 Timothy chapter 2, verses 1 and 2 says, I urge that entreaties and prayers and petitions and thanksgivings be made on behalf of all men, for kings and all who are in authority, in order that we may lead a tranquil and quiet life in all godliness and dignity. The Roman leaders of that day were worse than anything we have in America today. But the Bible said to pray for them. The Bible says that it is in your own best interest to pray for them. Ian Bremmer, president of the Eurasia Group, said, if we had to pick one year of a big unexpected crisis, it feels like 2018. That should be a reason enough to pray for the world leaders. Also, remember to pray for Christian leaders. On a happy note, May 14th of 2018 will mark the 70th anniversary of founding of the modern state of Israel. The land of Israel, Eretz Yisrael in Hebrew, is 4,000 years old. But this modern anniversary is especially meaningful as a reminder God still does amazing things. As Jesus said, with God, all things are possible. Want to see an example? The Bible says that one day the Jewish people will turn as a group to Jesus Christ. A 2017 poll by the Barna Group shows that the groundwork is already being laid. In a study of Jewish millennials, Barna found that 21%, more than 1 in 5 of these young people, believe Jesus is God in human form who lived among people in the first century. This is a crack in the wall that has stood a very long time, and it may be a foretaste of a great miracle ahead for the children of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Though 2017 was an exhausting year, I don't foresee the pace easing up in 2018. Just stay prayed up, clean before God, and ready to go when He calls, which might happen any day now. Well, that's it for tonight, folks. God willing, I'll see you next week.
You've been watching the HAL Lindsey Report. To support this program, send your tax-deductible gift to HAL Lindsey Media Ministries, P.O. Box 470470, Tulsa, Oklahoma 74147. You can also support this ministry online. Visit hallindsey.com or call 1-888-RAPTURE.